Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. I'm John Watts along with Brad Cook, and today we have
Steve Behrens, I'm going to butcher this but I'm just going to say Steve Behrens from Clear Comfort. Steve can tell us what his title there is at Clear Comfort.
Sure. I'm actually the CEO and founder. The company is a little over a dozen years old now. And we've been started in the pool business and have, through some acquisition, expanded into more than just pools, which includes industrial water and agricultural water. So we do all those.
Yeah, and Steve was one of the first people on my list to want to get to talk to, because he's got a very interesting product in pool care, and I would dare say water chemistry, but he might argue that it's not actually water chemistry, because when people think of chemistry, when I think of water chemistry, I think of chemicals that you're adding to the pool. And Steve's got a product that has kind of, it's a product that's been on, or it's a system that's been kind of gaining popularity over the past several years, and we're still trying to get our brain wrapped around it, because we've been of that school of thought of people who use a lot of saltwater chlorination, even though we know the harshness of salt, and we explain that to our customers that it is, and we also explain that we can explain that to customers and they still buy it. So I've always been looking for an alternative for myself to get as far away from chlorine as respectable. And what I mean by that is you don't want to leave something behind just to say you left it behind, but to get to lower the demand for it, because in low dosages, I believe that chlorine is the best sanitizer around. And I know Steve has a solution for that, and still trying to get and Steve and I don't have a business relationship as yet, but we're working on it, and we're offering the product now, but we haven't taken a lot of the product in as Steve and I have discussed what it might look like to bring a lot of his product in, because we like to bring our products in as affordable as possible. So he and I are still discussing that. It's not because of the lack of belief in the product. I believe in the product, but also this is going to help me to educate my customers and educate myself in the process of learning a little bit more about how all this works. But if you don't mind, you said about 12 years ago you got into the industry. Can you kind of walk me through your life and kind of what happened before 12 years ago that led you up to this? I won't
tell you when I was born, though. So.
That's fair.
You and I compared ages, and we're about the same. So
right. Okay. All right.
In the same bucket.
For selfish reasons, though, I always like to hear that story about what led you to the pool industry.
So it is kind of a weird story, because I spent most of my career in high-tech stuff. I worked for IBM for 13 years, built products for them, launched products, sold, had a great career there, great people. I decided it was time for me to do something different, and so I went to a startup, again in the high-tech space in data storage. That went really well, and it afforded me the opportunity to start doing other things, and I founded a company and I joined that company, but it was early. We were email software for archiving software long before people were doing it. And then I kind of jumped ship after the 2008 crash, and I wanted to do something that was more meaningful and impactful. So I got into what was then termed clean tech or impact companies. And I co-founded a company with a good friend of mine, and we developed a technology for power lines. So that was
power lines.
Yes. still out there. It is. It was a communication technology, so it could.
I got you.
You could take a plug on a wall, and it basically communication swimming upstream. So getting all the way back to transformers into other places. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Had a great time.
That makes sense to you?
Do what?
Does that make sense to you? What he's talking about?
Oh, of course, I understand everything.
Yeah.
Well, he's a lot more. He's a lot more. Yeah. John's a lot more of a technical guy.
No, I got nothing.
Okay,
well, you said Transformers. I was thinking about the Bumblebee in the movies. That's
it goes right through those two.
Right.
But yeah, we kind of did that, and then we sold the company, and I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And a friend of mine came to me and said, "We got this great technology in this other business. Would you like to take it into the pool space?" And I'm like, "I'll look." And I was volunteering some time at the time, and I got hooked into this kind of pool space. Been doing it now for 12 years, which is coming up on the longest run of my career. And what I found was, one, I really like the people. The people were great to work with. They were totally real. If you're ever in the high tech space, some people are great and some are not so real. And then I also liked the fact that the solution worked. And so before I licensed the technology first, and then we bought it 3 years ago. Bought the company. So we acquired the company who licensed it to us 3 years ago. And we found that in the pool space, we had to kind of learn our way through. You were mentioning chemicals. Everyone forgets water is a chemical. It's kind of
and I just didn't know it.
Yeah,
H2O.
How about that?
It's H2O. It's what we learned first in high school, right?
Right. Well, that makes sense in chemistry.
Yeah, because my teacher told me, "No, you're not going out for more H2O. You've been in the hallway too long."
There's a little chemistry saying, Johnny was a chemist's son, but Johnny is no more. What Johnny thought was H2O was H2SO4.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
See that falling on the ears of 40th class reunion, telling my age. Last year was my 40th class reunion, and we had the opportunity to walk our high school because our class reunion was like basically next door to the high school, right? And we were all walking around, and somebody said, well, that's where the chemistry class was right there, wasn't it? And the other one said, yeah. And I said, never went in there.
Okay,
back to playing.
But believe it or not, chemistry was not my strong suit. But basically, we just look at chemicals, and as I built the business, it took a lot of learning to find out what the right balance was. And I think any system in pools, you have to get the right balance for it, whether you're using just chlorine or you're using things like our AOP systems. The question is, what do you get out of it when you're done? And that's where I think we came to.
But before we go into how this is treated, how pools are treated, tell me what water you guys were treating when you said you bought the license from another company, and then you've since bought the company. Tell me what was this company treating before? Water, I'm sure, but in what capacity?
Yeah, I'll kind of give you the original origin of the technology and let you know what happened. It's a great story. There's a gentleman who invented the technology who has since passed, but really a great guy. And he was a hospital facilities director. So he'd take care of all the things in the hospital. One of the things was a cooling tower, and the cooling tower was a problem because they were remodeling the hospital, and the new entrance for the children's ward was right next to it. So if you're familiar with the cooling tower, it's lots of chlorine or lots of bad things like Legionella. And he was told they couldn't restructure the whole plan, so he had to figure out a better way. So he literally in his bathtub put together the original system for this. And he basically was able to develop what became our system. He patented it, and they launched a company, and they applied it almost entirely to the cooling tower market. Cooling towers, if you know, are anywhere from small spa-sized bodies of water all the way up to 30 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So it worked everywhere, and it worked really well. It actually replaced, in that application, replaced chlorine. And so they launched it. They got to about 3,000 or so towers out there, and what fell apart was they were trying to rent them, and that didn't work. So when we started Clear Comfort, I licensed it, but we just wanted to sell the systems. And we took the systems and applied them from everything from pools to water parks, and we still do. About 6-7 years ago, we redeveloped a product specifically for spas. So that's kind of how we got into it. Approach to Dave was the original inventor. His approach was very unique, and what it resulted in is a technology where you can create the reaction we create in water. All chemistry is about reactions. We create a reaction that is very effective and leaves no byproducts that are bad for people. So that's kind of the uniqueness of it. It works fine with chlorine and helps us in swimming pools. We lower the amount of chlorine used to basically similar to what drinking water is, a little less.
Right. You'd said something a second ago about the cooling towers did not need chlorine, that it was taken care of.
They don't need a residual chlorine because the circulation rate's so fast. Because it's so fast, AOP is essentially, it's not residual, but it's essentially residual. When you're circulating and you get a 3-minute, 10-minute turnover, that's what a cooling tower gets, maybe 15 on bigger towers. So we don't need any other residual chemistry. Chlorine's very good because we can keep it in the water for longer periods of time, right? And so we don't have to be there all the time. But in a body of water like a hot tub, that circulates every 15 minutes or so,
right?
Maybe 20. If you take a hot tub, the residual is not as critical if you have a lot of oxidation happening. That's what we do. So chlorine is an oxidizer. That's what it's good at.
So I'll tell you this. I'm understanding some kind of the surface level of this because I've been around it for a while. But remember how I said I never knew where my chemistry class was in high school. So let's talk to me like I'm 5. I think was a quote from The Office. So, and tell us how this basically. What does this do? How does this?
Basically, we take air. Air is what we're breathing right now, I hope. And then it's O2. It's mostly in O2 state. So you hear about ozone. Ozone is O3. Ozone stays naturally at a level in the atmosphere because it's in some sort of stasis mode where it can stay in that O3 mode. Oxygen wants to be at O2. So when you push it to some other form, it gets angry and starts oxidizing things. So if you want a 5-year-old reactor, that's basically what it's doing. So O3 is a form of anger that is kind of longer and prolonged, which means it'll have corrosivity issues, it'll have other issues. We create O1. O1 is very short-lived and it gets in the water very quickly. O1 is called monatomic oxygen. It's not very common, but it doesn't last very long unless you do things to it to help it get to the water. And when I say not very long, fractions of a second. So we get
that was still pretty technical. Could you explain it like we're 2? No, I'm kidding.
So basically,
what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, you want to talk about covalent bonds? We can go there, but I don't want to. I think that'll be too much.
Oh no, we're
I,
good.
I don't remember that part of the chemistry classes I took. So I don't remember that part of the chemistry classes I took. So no, but it basically is a very simple way to create lots of oxidation, which is a good thing because it gets rid of the things you don't want, the bacteria and all the other stuff, skin, hair. It'll take care of reducing those to elemental things that are non-harmful, and it won't create a breeding ground for bacteria, for biofilm, for pathogens like cryptosporidium, things like that. So what it does, when things get simpler, they get better. And ours is probably the most simple way to achieve oxidation in the water um, that I've run into. Um, I'll never say it will always, someone will come up with something. But
So,
in doing that, we don't add lots of other stuff. So,
and this is a device that connects
yes,
to the pool. And
yes.
what level of involvement does the consumer have with this device on their pool? Like, what's the care and maintenance that a consumer would expect with this device attached?
So I would say more than 80% of our customers have a pool service company doing the work for them. What
Would you
it
say?
brings the pool service company is stability around how the pool is when they're gone. Some sports, I'm going to simplify this, are team sports, right? You have a goalie and you have a whatever you got. I'll use hockey. We just won last night, so we'll use that. Everyone's got a role to play, and advanced oxidation systems like ours, AOP, has a role to play. In swimming pools, we have another player there, and we use chlorine. We use low amounts of it. So about what you shower in on a daily basis is what we're keeping in the water. It's anywhere from a half a part to a part and a half of chlorine. And because of that, that's parts per million, by the way. So because of that, we're a team sport in swimming pools. On the cooling towers, we're more of an individual sport because we can do the whole job and the conditions are right for it. So it really just depends on how you apply our technology. But what it gives the end consumer, back to your question, is less irritation from chlorine. And chlorine's not the villain, it's the byproducts from chlorine that's the real problem. It's what it creates after it does its job. So it combines with other things. That's where we get irritation from chlorine. You can have fairly high amounts of chlorine, relatively speaking, in the water and not really have a problem with it. The problem is that when it goes to work, it creates the things that bother us, burn our eyes and things like that. So we lower that amount of chlorine to do its job, which is nice, slow, residual. It's kind of the slow cooker. And then we're the broiler in that pool. So the customer doesn't have to worry about that. It keeps things in a very solid, sound state. And not to get into more chemistry, but everything is about pH. And most chemicals that we add in liquid or powder or anything else jack the pH around all over the place. And so the more we can keep pH normal, the better that body of water is. Same with your body. Our bodies are meant to be at about, I think it's 7.3. If it gets more than 1 or 2 tenths off of that, so 7.2, 7.1, we're in really bad shape. Our bodies are very specific about pH. A pool that's kept in good pH ranges, it's a lot wider than that, it's not as finicky, is really a good pool. Because however you get there, whether it's us or traditional chemistry, but what we end up with is customers who have less problems. We can higher bather load. So if you have a party, it'll recover quickly without lots and lots of additional chemistry. The other thing to keep in mind, almost all chemicals added have salt in them, where we don't add these salts. The only problem with salt is, well, it stabilizes those chemicals so it gets in the water and then it dissolves. The problem with salt is it adds turbidity to the water, and then you have to drain it and fill it. So there's a lot of things that the end consumer doesn't really want to understand or deal with. And that's why, our customers are mostly pool professionals and builders, because they understand how to manage a pool, and then taking a device like ours, which is a premium product, it's not cheap.
And when you say turbidity, and when you say turbidity, a way to describe that for the 5-year-old, or the high school flunky, when you turn on your light at night and you see fog, and you see it's just not crystal clear. The water looks clear until you turn your light on. Would that be an example of turbidity?
I like milk. That's my simple example. Milk is mostly water, but we don't see through it. Turbidity is the particles that are in milk, the fats, the proteins, the other pieces that make it milk, which I really like, by the way. Is the essence of, if you want to explain turbidity to someone, I can't see through a glass of milk. And one of the things about swimming pools is there's not good stuff in the water when it gets turbid, where you can't see through it.
And that's kind of where I was going with that, is that the all the additives that's in all of the things that you put in your water adds to the turbidity of the water. And to get rid of that, you're gonna have to put more chemicals in to get it to collect and filter out. Or in the case where what you guys sell,
you chase your tail, right? You add the chlorine to kill the bad stuff, then you add stuff to take the chlorine to a different state, and then you add pH to rebalance the acid or some form of base product to change the pH to balance pH. And you end up, because you first start with lots of chlorine, you end up having to chase that to balance the water. Once you're good at that, that's great. And that's where pool service guys are great. But most homeowners don't want to deal with that. And so what they want is a pool they don't have to manage as much, and one that's more reliable. And if I hear the biggest thing I hear from our customers is, your water is reliable, I don't worry about it, and I'm doing the same thing all the time, which that makes it easier.
You're eliminating the Clear Comfort system, eliminates the tail chasing to I would say probably around 90%, because you're basically, and John, I don't know if you are picking up on all of this, but I tested the water here in Union City, Tennessee, a couple years ago, because of the people from the city were saying, well, you can't backwash all this chlorinated water into the ditch. You got to put it through our system. And I tested, I said, and so we went on low chlorine systems. And so I tested our water, and it was like 4.5 or 5 parts, or 0.5 parts per million. And then I tested the city water, and it was 0.88 parts per million. So, I mean, it was almost 1 part per million, which for people out there listening, that's not a lot for a pool, but it's plenty to be drinking, And so what we're doing with Clear Comfort is getting it below that.
Yep.
So you're basically drinking water. And don't you guys, in the other side of the business, don't you treat drinking water, or is this technology not used in foreign countries to ozone and UV? Is that not used?
So our system works best when you have multiple turns of the water, and we get to expose our treatment to it, which is a gas. So it's little bubbles, little tiny bubbles, and you can degas if you want, but there's little tiny bubbles that are in the water. And that process is one where you're hitting it in a good pool 3 to 4 times a day. In a average pool, about 2 times a day. And that's enough. In a not well-designed pool, you're getting it about one time a day. And so when you look at that, the pool is repetitive and it's all the time. In a commercial pool, it's about 6 times a day, 4-hour turnovers. The more it circulates, the better. You go to a hot tub and you're in less than a half hour. So one of the things that just happened recently is Bullfrog's been a partner of ours, putting us on their ultra premium lines, their swim spas, for years, and they just announced they're putting us on, making the only premium water offering available, or upgrade offering, for their spas across the entire line.
Would you take us back to how that all happened? Because you told me that a few weeks ago, and I thought it was a great story. It's a great testament to the Clear Comfort system itself.
Yeah, one of the hard parts is Chlorine has a big advantage that you have test strips you can test for it. But AOP systems, ours or anyone else's, there's no test. Because the reaction happens quickly, if you're really doing advanced oxidation, it's in less than tenths of a second. So there are ways to test it in a university lab. We've done that. But what they wanted to do is come up with a system to figure out, does this work? And about 3 years ago, they were launching our product on their top end lines. And we did a test, we devised a test, very similar to what filter companies use, but we added a few extra things. So we added urea, which simulates urine. We added almond milk. So almond milk has protein similar to hair, skin, nails. We added, and it also is it's a great way to throw turbidity in the water, is put almond milk in it. And then you couldn't see your hand if you put your hand about 3-4 inches below the water. And then ran the systems. They had their filter on there, nothing else. But they ran us, and they ran it without us. Then they ran it with their current system they had at the time, which was a ozone system. And we were clearing the water significantly faster, 2 to 3 times faster, to recover the water back to where it should be. And the important part here is they had a way of testing it. So we use a turbidity meter to test how much stuff was left in the water. It wasn't just by eyesight. There's meters that do that. They're very common in water delivery for a lot of places, including your drinking water. And we did actual scientific testing. It took 3 to 4 months to do this. And we would drain and fill and start over again. Once they saw that, they understood they'd already had it on their spas, and they knew they weren't having to do much with our systems. When I say not much, I mean close the lid and get out. And come back, and it was working. It was fine. And they couldn't get that way with anything else they tried. So that's how we started with them. They then launched us on their swim spas and their premium series, and then added their next one down. And then they had a third option that was another ozone system. They got rid of that because this was a much better value, even though it's more expensive. It's a better value for their customers. So it's not, these relationships don't happen. They are truly relationships. We are very open and honest when it works, when there's a problem, whatever there is. That's the key to a good business relationship. And we do that with our pool dealers. We do that with everybody. Mostly because people don't want to tell you this, but water care and treatment is a long game. It's not a short game. You can't fail. And if you fail, people remember that longer than they remember the other 364 and a half days a year it was working great.
Right.
You know, you can't fail.
And don't you guys have, because I'm thinking, okay, so we're going to be putting this on pools this year, and it seemed like along the way I heard that you guys had a really strong warranty, a money back guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the benefits, when you have a very simple system, you can offer stronger warranties because there's less places for it to fail.
Right.
So all we have is, I can actually share it if you want, but I've got a picture of it, but is a two-part system. It's a controller and then a cartridge. And the cartridge is replaceable, and depending on whether you're in a spa or a pool, it's a little different. It's 2 minutes to swap the cartridge. The simplicity of that means we are able to offer warranties that are 5 years on the controller, which is unheard of in the pool business. We are offering warranties of 1 year on the consumable part as well. So as long as you're replacing that consumable every year, which is what most people are doing who are year-round pools, that becomes a very simple way to maintain the system. And we've on pools we've been on 12 years. I can tell you from my family's experience, everything else in the pool pad's been replaced, not our system.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so, well, and I was under the impression that there was and I don't mind to say for my customers, if I put one of these systems on, I would give a money back guarantee. I would give a 30 or 60-day money back guarantee. But do you do that as a company, or is that?
Yeah, we have a 90-day money back guarantee.
90-day money back.
To do it to someone like you versus to the customer.
Of course.
Because we don't have a transaction with them, but yes, we do.
Well, because this is quite an investment, but it's an investment in clean water that's like probably in the top 5 percentile of clean water out there in the pool business. But with that comes the higher cost, or at least initial cost, and with that warranty, that's makes people, I would think, feel a lot more at ease. And just the idea that if you try this and for some reason it's not for you, that you get your money back in 90 days. And what that tells me is that they know that it's going to work, and they know they're going to see the difference.
We've done that, I want to say, since pretty much day one. It was probably day 60. We added a 90-day money back guarantee, a 5-year system warranty, and a 1-year consumable warranty. We've never changed that. Never took it away, never changed it, never changed terms. It's just the way it is.
So talking about money, it's going to come up. How does this system compare to the other ways to take care of it?
Let's say like a salt system, and I can tell you, salt systems, depending on in the world installed, depending on the size of the pool, the salt system, the warranty on the salt system is going to be anywhere from $1,500 installed to $2,750, $2,900, something like that. Depending on the salt system and the manufacturer.
Right.
So that to set you up, Steve, I don't know if you know.
Yeah. Generally, we're running about $1,000 more than a salt system.
Okay. $1,000 more. Okay.
The difference, though, is salt cells do not last. And so what you're ending up doing is spending the majority of what a salt system is a electrolytic thing with a bunch of plates in it. And they put an electrical charge across it, and it takes the salt and rips it apart and makes chlorine. So you actually have a little chlorine factory in the pool. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's a good way to deliver chemicals, in my opinion, because you can dial it. The problem, though, is those plates get a lot of stress from that electrical process that's happening there. And so if you buy really expensive ones, they'll last 4 or 5 years. If you buy less expensive ones, they'll last a couple of years. So it really depends what you get. You gotta, there are great ones out there and there are okay ones.
Would it suffice to say, Steve, that if we put them side by side, a salt system versus a Clear Comfort system, that at 10 years you're making money on the Clear Comfort?
So, Brad, you and I have, I think, talked about this before. If you want to make money, don't get a pool.
Yeah.
Again, can I do a parallel here? Because
But
I'll
if you
say the
want,
same.
if you want the enjoyment of a pool, and you want that, it's a luxury, and you want the best experience with that pool, that's what is the key. It's so hard to track cost on small pools. If you go the other side, cooling towers, that by replacing chlorine, that's less than a 2-year payback for them.
Right.
So it's very quick there. On a spa, it depends. The problem with spas is people put things like bath bombs in there to make them smell funky and stuff, and I'm like, all that is super turbidity, and then they don't take care of their filter. But for most pools, the payback is in the consistency and not having the problems, and the long-term resilience of our systems, of the fact that less chlorine in the pool means all the other systems last longer. Everything else lasts longer. Your heater, your pumps, everything is better with less chlorine in it. And you have, if you're a vinyl liner pool, it's that most vinyl manufacturers don't want more than 1.5 parts per million, and if they find that when they test your pool, and they'll claim they won't honor their warranty because of it.
Well, you're cutting that by 60 to 70%.
Yeah, but we're about the only thing that I know of that you can keep that less than a part and a half and meet that requirement for vinyl liners. Fiberglass is pretty tough, but it has kind of a weirder degradation. All those things are lasting better. Everything lasts longer with the right amount of chlorine. It's not about zero. It's just get the chlorine down to the level where it doesn't have the ability to destroy those elements. Not 5 parts per million, half part to 1 part per million is a great range. Even 1.5 is safe.
So clearer water, less chlorine, less overall chemicals. When you turn that light on, you don't see the milk in water. The lack of chlorine means the longevity of your liner and the pattern on your liner, or the surface of your fiberglass pool, or even a gunite or a plaster surface. It's arguable that the less corrosive your water is, the longer plaster, and all of this stuff is going to live. All your equipment's going to have a potential to live longer. Yep. So to me, I see the payoff. I appreciate what you're saying. You're being brutally honest, and I like that you're not saying that you're going to save money in 10 years, but personally, I can see the savings there down the road, especially the quality of life is, as you said, typically you don't get something for nothing, and luxuries are typically you pay more for luxury. Is that fair? Well,
if someone can tell me what the ROI was when I bought this thing, I would really like to know that, because all I know is it keeps pulling money out of my pocket. But we like it. It enhances our life. A pool enhances people's lives. A pool is essentially not just an oasis in the water sense, but it isolates us from a lot of stress. And that's not just me saying that. There's a lot of studies about people who swim regularly, or just soak regularly, bathtub, things like that. It has a profound effect on your health, on your mental health, and it's worth whatever investment it takes to do that.
I'm gonna dip my toe back in the proverbial water here. I read something in a trade publication recently, within the past couple of years, that you guys were being used in Colorado and commercial pools because the swimmers that stayed right there at the surface of the water. Does this ring a bell to you?
Yeah, so if you're a competitive swimmer, the worst the worst air is the air right above the water.
Or if you're a kid that stays in a pool
right
day long.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so that air is bad because I was talking about those byproducts from chlorine. they off gas into a gas layer. Well, the gas is heavier than the rest of the air, so it sits at that area. So really good competitive swimmers have they call it lifeguard lung and all sorts of other names for it. And where we have a huge impact is lowering the amount of those gases called chloramines that go into that. There's other types too, but they're all a big family of off-gas products. So by using less chlorine, and we also break down the chloramines with our system, those all are a beneficial result of not having that exposure. And yes, we are in Colorado. By the way, we manufacture everything here
In Colorado.
in Colorado. Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating, the story, but because the swimmers were getting sick, and now that they're using a clear comfort type system, that has been reduced dramatically because the chlorine gases are not sitting right there on top of the water,
Yeah.
and especially in an indoor facility. I don't know. I'm sure that when you don't, so doesn't probably that makes a difference there.
To me, that's probably the best selling point. You know, I growing up as a kid, I spent hours in the pool in the summers, just hours and hours, and I never thought about the gases like that.
Yeah, it's a very odd. People build up a lot of stories, like the hair damage, that women have, and most of that comes from some form of chlorine byproduct or too high a level of chlorine. It's not from the chlorine itself. It's kind of chlorine's been villainized. It's, you were talking about this earlier. It is Brad was saying, it's just a piece that is part of the mix of what we do. It's naturally occurring, quite frankly. It's naturally occurring at very low levels. And so if we can keep it down to usable levels, it's not the villain. In swimming pools, we make, chlorine better. We don't get rid of it, which is funny because most people think we're a chlorine replacement. You could run a pool with us and do a lot of steps, but chlorine is a better player on our team to deliver the best pool.
So I'll say this, that you and I are going to continue our conversation and try to figure out how we can bring this in. I want to bring my other members of the team in for you to talk to them on one of our future meetings here, and just to get to. I would really like for it to be you. I know Drew has talked, and he's done an excellent job, but from a different perspective, I'd like to get you to talk to the team about this.
I can dumb it down better because Drew's. I got that.
Right. Well, that's definitely what you're going to need to do. So to make us understand, but and I've got the picture. It's a low chlorine, liner lasts longer, better to be around on your skin. There's the only thing wrong is the price, and you're going to pay it. And my side of it is you're going to pay it eventually anyway.
I think to your point earlier, if you say it's 1,000 more than salt, 2 seasons of taking care of a salt pool, it all balances out. You're adding salt, you got to replace the salt, you got to do the startup, all that stuff. So I think you're right. It's probably, there's some number in there, but I don't know what that is because we're not, you would have a better view than I would, Brad.
Yeah, I can definitely see the advantage. So, Steve, I want to thank you very much. But before we get out of here, let's have some fun. What do we always ask of our? What have we been asking our guests here?
We have a question that we often ask people. Or we've started to ask, and I've got some new questions to them. They haven't been authorized yet, so I'll start with our old reliable one. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and you don't have any more money worries. No more. You've made so much money that You don't have to do this anymore. You
Even
don't
more than you've already made, Steve.
right. There you go. And what would you do with your life?
Wow. This came up last night. We had friends over for dinner, and all but two of us, there's six there, were retired. And so then you become the target, and they say, when are you get retired? And I like making things. I like being with people that are challenging in some way, not just, playing golf with the same four guys every other day for eternity. Seems like I love golf, but it seems like hell to me. I want to be stimulated mentally, socially, and so business offers that. It gives us the opportunity. If you get past the money part, actually money comes faster if you can get past it. If you can talk about people and you can talk about what you do for customers and what you do for your employees who are so key to what we do, and can you give them growth and mentor? Those are things that 30 years ago I was the hard charging guy. Now I'm like, this is fun. This is stuff I want to do, and I'm not doing it and counting my paycheck. It's about what is it I can do with people. And so for me, that's where, if I wasn't in business, they asked me this last night, what would you do if you sold the company and you were put out to pasture? It basically is the way he put it, which I haven't forgiven him for yet. And I said, I would probably either find another business to help. I don't think at my point in life I want to start another 15-year business, but I do want to be involved in something or teach. Teach people. Consulting is okay, but that's kind of a hard one. I don't want it for the transactional value of it, so I want it for the personal value. So that would be me. I don't know if that was a long-winded.
No, it's fascinating to hear what people say, because as I said multiple times, it kind of helps you see into the soul of the person that you're talking to a little bit, and I can relate to the idea of not playing golf every day. That just something about that's within me that makes me feel like that you and I might align with what we might do with unlimited funds. Except for the part, right? What's that? Yeah. No, it is. And if I had to, I haven't asked myself that, and to dig deep, and maybe John asked me that sometime, and it catches me off guard where I'm forced to, but I can relate to, to exactly what you said, and some of the other answers I've heard. It's really, to me, we may get rid of this question, but I really like it because it just kind of helps you. Now I know Steve a little bit better, and I know kind of what drives him, and so can't help but think that I would have a little bit of something going on with business as well, and got a little bit of a little charity too there that I got in mind. So
it has absolutely the ability of, I volunteer on boards and things like that, and I really enjoy it, and I could see doing a lot more of that, but maybe getting a little more involved where I could help. So but yeah, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, we've got some mutual friends on boards now that I remember that. Yeah, Tim Shears is one of them. I need to get Tim on here sometime.
Tim you got to interview Tim.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to.
Yeah.
We go back 30 years at least. So yeah.
Tim, just so John, Tim is on our.
Yes, that's
which
what
is interesting because he grew up in the chemical business.
What was that now?
He grew up in this chemical business. He created.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when I look at that, he and I saw eye to eye on this idea that there's a better total way to do things. Right. And he joined our board. He's unpaid. It's a It's a great honor to have him. He's a great person to get advice from. And yeah, he's a really good guy. I think you guys are close, right? Relatively speaking.
Yeah, we have a house probably within about 30 or 45 minutes from one another, at least as the crow flies. He just bought a place up in Kentucky, not too far from me up there. Well, we have a place up in Kentucky, but we live in Tennessee. Our home is in Tennessee.
He has a place, he has a condo down in Florida too. And a motorhome, from what I understand from last.
He says he's going to take me flying sometime, so I know he's got a plane. Yeah, I think he's a private pilot. Yeah, he gets around.
It was a long time ago, but I stopped doing that. So
yeah, well, really, yeah. I've always been scared to. My mom said when I was a kid, I wanted to do it. She said, well, the doctor said that your reflexes weren't that a pilot would be able to do anything like that. And as I've grown older, that's sat back there, and as I operate machinery around houses, I'm thinking, I think I know what you were doing, and it's okay. But to honor my mom, I'm not gonna.
I'm gonna test that on the next podcast. Right. I'm gonna start throwing stuff at you, see if you catch it.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys including us in this. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We could go on, but we'll cut it off there, Steve, and let's talk again, or we'll talk through Drew and everything, and we'll see about getting some more of that product put on there. I've been putting it out there for customers in what little I'm out there selling, because that's something I believe in, and I believe it'll be good for our customers.
Well,
and if it's good for our customers,
sounds good, Steve. It was nice to meet you. We appreciate you sticking through our technical difficulties at the beginning there, and and for those watching, we appreciate you bearing with us as we figure this all out. But again, this has been another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. Like, subscribe, tell us what else you'd like to see, or if you've got a question you'd like us to ask our guests, please do that. Along with Brad, I'm John. Dive safely.